Use of artificial nest boxes for Hazel Dormouse, Muscadinus elevenarius, by Caroline Vickman, Jared Eldridge, Livy Morris, and Pacharima Prangan. Illustrations by Livy Morris.
The dormouse is an arboreal species which is known to inhabit the understory of British woodlands. It often forages for different fruits and nuts, in particularly the hazelnut, Corylus avellana, also known as the common hazel, which is a species which is very often used in British woodlands and hedgerows.
The UK's hedgerows have been in decline for decades due to changes in farming practices, such as the use of mechanised equipment such as combine harvesters and the creation of larger fields for agriculture. The wildlife corridor which hedgerows provide is of great importance for dormice to maintain diverse populations throughout isolated pockets of small woodlands, which make up much of the UK's forest cover.
In woodland habitats, dormice prefer structural diversity with varied tree heights and areas of scrub. When mature trees start to dominate and transition into ageing woodland habitat loses its diversity and therefore reduces suitable habitat for dormice.
Diversity of these habitats used to be maintained by the management practice of coppicing. However, coppicing declined by the start of the 20th century, which has further contributed to the decline of suitable habitats for dormice.
Since the 1980s, newly planted woodlands have tended to be broadleaved. As these forests mature, they become less suitable for dormice. Between 1990 and 2007, the Countryside Survey found that the number of plant species in these woodlands had decreased by almost a tenth. As the woodlands develop, the understory is shaded out, leaving little suitable habitat for dormice. These plots suggest there is a significance between dormice populations and the amount of management undertaken in potential habitats. Plot A shows that dormice abundance increased when management was conducted on the site. Plot B shows that the dormice litters increased relative to the amount of management their habitat received.
Due to the loss of suitable habitat and fragmentation, Hazel dormouse populations have been declining. This graph shows the decline in dormouse populations on monitored sites since 1993. The solid line shows the underlying trend, with the dashed lines either side representing the standard deviation. The population has decreased by 51% since 1993.
As a result of the decline in hazel dormouse populations, the species has been registered under several protective legislations. Dormice are protected under the Conservation of Habitats and Species Regulation 2017, making it an offence to kill, injure, disturb or capture an individual. They are also protected under Section 5 of the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981. Under Section 41 of the Natural Environment and Rural Communities Act 2006, hazel dormice are also listed as a rare and most threatened species. As a Section 41 species, there must be consideration taken for the conservation of this species throughout the planning process for a development. Hazel dormice are a BAP priority / red listed species based on their international importance, rapid decline and high risk. By law, the appropriate licence must be obtained if the area in question is occupied by breeding dormice, if the activity in question will result in committing an offence against protective legislation. 2 licences are available from Natural England, 1 or both may be required depending on development. These include the Survey or Research Level 1 licence and the Mitigation licence.
Due to the enforcement of protective legislation, decrease of dormice population and decrease of suitable habitats, artificial nest boxes are now being used.
Dormouse nesting boxes are an important conservation tool as they've been shown to increase population density of dormice. They're also used for surveying populations, habitat enhancement and reintroduction schemes, as well as mitigation for loss of dormouse habitat elsewhere.
When positioning nest boxes, the following factors should always be considered. Nest boxes put up near honeysuckle have a higher chance of being occupied. As dormice are arboreal, the optimum height for a nest box is between 1.5 metres to 3 metres from the ground, ideally on hazel. Placing clusters of boxes in suitable places can increase the rate of occupancy. It has been found that the abundance of adult dormice can double when the boxes are positioned in a 25 by 25 metre nest box grid. Nest boxes should be placed in areas with low levels of human disturbance, near a potential rootway such as honeysuckle or branches. To reduce the risk of birds utilising the box, the hole should be placed facing inwards. The box is attached to the tree using a wire loop, making it easy to remove for surveying.
Just how effective are artificial nest boxes? Well, in a study conducted by Bright and Morris in 1990, a comparison was carried out between areas with the nest boxes and areas without. It was found that the total abundance of dormice was higher in areas with nest boxes than without. Therefore, this study indicates that the density of dormice can be increased when boxes are provided. This graph shows the number of dormice that were trapped. A and E represents the total of dormice trapped in areas with boxes, and B and F represented the total trapped in areas without. In a study conducted in 2020 based in the Carpathian Landscape Parks in Poland, 575 nest boxes were checked for the presence of dormice. It was found that 79% of these boxes were occupied. Therefore, these studies have demonstrated that nest boxes are efficient as a conservational tool for providing shelter for dormice. Furthermore, these studies indicate that there is most likely an insufficient amount of suitable natural shelters in these habitats.
However, it should be considered that nest boxes are not always used straight away by the dormice, and it could take several years before the boxes are occupied. This factor can be a disadvantage if the nest boxes have been placed to act as an instant mitigation factor to compensate for the loss of habitat.
Here in Marline Valley, a local nature reserve and a site of special scientific interest in Hastings in East Sussex, valuable work is being done here to monitor dormice populations to provide valuable information for scientists. As nest boxes are already used by ecologists to survey Hazel dormouse populations, post-monitoring any nest boxes that have been placed due to mitigation should be encouraged in development plans. This would help providing the scientific community with valuable data on Hazel dormice populations and help develop an understanding of how effective nest boxes are for mitigation. Researchers have demonstrated that Hazel dormice do utilise nest boxes when placed in their habitat. However, further research should focus on monitoring Hazel dormice populations post-mitigation to determine the true efficiency of this mitigation process.
To enhance mitigation, habitat management is very important. So here we can see a woodland management plan with the dormouse in mind. One can see that there are a number of different strategies that can be implemented as part of this. For example, here you can see that there's often recently in a clear felled woodland, there is a lot of regrowth from pioneer trees, which would begin to shade out a lot of the ground flora, and therefore, as a result, in a larger, rather bare shrub layer with a poor biodiversity of species. A way to combat this would be to carry out selective felling of certain specimens to open up the forest floor to more sunlight and allow for more shrub species such as brambles and honeysuckles to grow back. Also, here we can see a coppice, which is an old-fashioned woodland practice of cutting broadleaf tree species, such as hazel, down to a near ground level, and then allowing it to regrow several straight shoots from the trunk, which then provides very valuable understory habitat for dormice, as well as a large number of the smaller bird species which do not often frequent the larger trees. So Marline Valley have been carrying out habitat work and management to make it more suitable for the dormouse, such as this coppicing of the hazel, which is very important for the hazel dormouse because that's part of their main diet is hazelnuts. They like it because it forms basically an understory in the wood, which is important and dense, which allows them to travel between each other when they're all connected like this. So here is a visual representation of the recommended coppicing scheme for a hazel dormice. So it's important for the dormouse to be able to get to the nest boxes as easily as possible. Hence why they are often placed near honeysuckle creepers, such as these, to allow them a better access to said nest boxes and to the environment, because they begin down at the base here and they provide a good handholds for them to climb up and get access to these areas. To reiterate, this is a management cycle plan on what to do with hedges and suboptimal habitats and restoration that should be carried out. It has a coding system for different states of the hedge, 3 being the least neglected and 1 being the most, with the key characteristics of neglected hedges being the fact that they are often bushy, high up, but have very little connection lower down, therefore making the use of these habitats as a corridor for the dormouse much more difficult, as well as effectively shading out much of the other hedgerow species which the mouse feeds upon. This often happens to hedges as they are often managed in modern times with regular annual cutting or flailing, which tends to cause the tree to form what are known as knuckles and puts most of its growing energy into the formation of these, which means the growth is not elsewhere on the plant. And well-managed hedgerow, which is trimmed every 3 years, which is per recommendation rather than annually, seems to be the best case scenario when it comes to hedgerows, since most trees which produce fruit do so on the second year wood, which will ensure that the dormouse has access to a regular supply of food when it finishes hibernation.
At the start of the summer, it is recommended to carry out some maintenance on artificial nest boxes. To prevent mites, any old bird nest should be removed after the chicks have fledged. To prevent early decay of the box and to keep the nest boxes free from nematode parasites, it is recommended that old damp nesting material from the previous year is removed.
To summarise, nest boxes can boost the population density of hazel dormice and woodland habitats. However, this may not always be effective straight away due to the period of time it can take for hazel dormice to re-establish. Maintaining suitable habitat management is key for supporting the use of nest boxes, especially as hazel dormice will not often hibernate over winter in nest boxes. Because appropriate habitat management is so important for supporting the habitat features that dormice rely on, integrating a habitat management plan alongside adding nest boxes should be compulsory. Thank you for watching.